Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time again for one of our favorite shows. It's time for This Week with Wendy. The one show, maybe the only show, that talks about the real SoCal state of mind with our friend Wendy Ross, who, after working in several real estate brokerages in Silicon Valley and Orange County, she decided it was time to do things her way. And so she did. She set up a company called Veracity Real Estate to tell people the real truth about what's happening out in the market there. And through it all, she's built a group of data-driven divas, as we call them, decision makers based on real data. And that's what we bring each and every week, some real eye-opening thoughts, insights, and whatnot about the market swirling around us. And today, swirling in from the last second from Diamond Bar is Wendy herself.
I know, planes, trains, and automobiles this morning. It was kind of nutty.
You made it by the seconds to go here.
Yeah, people just, if you saw the silver blur on the highway, that was me.
That was you.
Flying down the highway.
We're glad you're here. Who did you bring with you today?
Well, today we're going to talk about what the real estate situation looks like for women. And that's why we have the lovely Bobbie Wasserman here to explore all the nuance of the real estate experience for us women.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My gosh, we're thrilled. So for those of you who don't know her or haven't listened to her podcast, you should. She's the founder of Single Lady Estates. It's an emerging community of homeowners focused on improving women's homeownership experience through the entire homeownership life cycle. So one of the things that I love about Bobbie is that she created a company based on lessons learned. So she aims to prevent other women from experiencing the same challenges that she did, because it's not as seamless as we like to make it look sometimes. So we're going to get into her story and more about why she's doing what she's doing. In just a moment, quickly, I'm going to recap what happened this past week in Orange County real estate. So these numbers may sound big, people, but they're really kind of tiny. As of this weekend, we had just over 3,500 active listings. 2,100 or so are in escrow, and we've sold just over 1,100 month to date in the entire county. Median price did tick up a little bit from the start of the month. We're now at $959,950. If we were to sell all of the active inventory available at this rate, it would take 1.66 months. That's actually a little bit faster than we were trending at the beginning of the month. The list price to sold price ratio has held steady at 99%. So people who are thinking, I'm going to go in and offer 10 and 20% below, well, that's not going to work. Clearly, the numbers don't support that. We have been at between 100 to 101%, so slightly higher sale than list price throughout the year, and now we've degraded all the way down to 99%. So yeah, you can get a 1% price reduction, people, and that's really kind of it. And what's really curious, and I talk about this in my various blogs and things, is that we seem to have transitioned into the fall cycle when active listings and sales tend to taper off as we get ready for the holidays and winter. And we moved into the seasonal cycle in June. When all the interest rates hit and buyers freaked out because they could no longer afford what they wanted, they just kind of slammed the door on buying. And we all expected that active inventory was going to really accumulate and rise. And what we found is that that happened a little bit in July, and then it started tapering off again in August. So we're in this weird plateau now where active inventory isn't rising and it's not really falling. It's just sort of in this period of stasis. And I think this stasis is what we're going to experience in Orange County for the next 30 to 60 days. So it's going to be very boring, and that's why I have fascinating people like Bobbie to come and talk about everything else. So that's that. So again, Bobbie is the founder and CEO of Single Lady Estates, and her emerging company serves women homeowners and head of households through the homeownership life cycle. That includes buying, selling, and everything in between. So and again, the company was based upon some pretty horrific experiences. So, Bobbie, thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm curious, before we dive into this, how long ago was it that you had all of these very difficult lessons, and how long do you think it has taken for you to sort of heal and be ready to tell others?
Well, I started the idea of Single Lady Estates during the litigation, but everything ended in December. So it's pretty new. So
Wow.
I'm still recuperating.
Certainly. Well, and it's interesting because I think studies show that one of the most stressful life events for anyone is buying a house.
Yeah.
And so if you have the most stressful event and then you make it really, really messy, that's got to be fairly traumatic. So thank you for being willing to share what people might look out for to improve their experience. So let's talk about it, what you can. What happened?
Well, it's interesting. I was involved in a really complex litigation, and it was over 7 years, and there were 4 lawsuits.
Good heavens.
And 1 law changed. We were able to change a law in the process.
Well, that sounds good.
So that was like, okay, now we're really rolling.
What sort of a law was it?
There, in the city of Los Angeles, there was an ordinance that was created in 1936 at the height of the Depression that the city took roads, quote, out of service.
You're kidding.
No,
they decommissioned roads.
They didn't decommission them.
Oh,
they
okay.
just took, it's legal phrasing, right? So
Right.
they took them out of service. And the ordinance stated in 1936 that, when they took these roads out of service, most of them were in the San Fernando Valley, which at that time was farmland.
Oh.
So it was not what it looks like today.
Mm-hmm. The giant suburb, of course.
Exactly. So what ended up happening is there were about 240 roads that they just said, we don't have the money to maintain. Right? It's in the height of the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
They put signs up, they blocked off those roads. And as the valley developed, then the signs went away and the roads became active without the city of LA officially putting them back into service. Now, the law was passed in 36, and then in 1937, the California Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. You built it, you bought it, you maintain it.
Right. You put it there, you fix it.
Exactly.
Okay.
City of LA never did that. So they've been using from 1936 for 82 years, they were using that excuse not to maintain roads.
Even though in 1937 that was deemed.
That's correct.
Wow.
And what ended up happening is, just to give the city a little, a little leeway, is as the valley developed, developers, would get these huge blocks of land, acres, and then those roads were fixed. But in the hills where the developers didn't go, and you've got, onesie, twosie houses, and people who live in LA will all know that those roads are narrow and they're alligatored a lot of times. And that is because of this law.
What does alligatored mean?
Alligatored is cracked, where the weeds grow in between the cracks.
Oh, okay. I've seen it. Didn't know that was. See, I've learned something.
I know. It's a lot of research.
You learned a lot through this
I learned a
process.
lot.
I can tell. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that law ended up, that was one of the issues that was impacting my home. That was in the middle of a hill and below one of these, quote, out of service roads. Now these roads, you get mail delivered. The residents didn't know they're out of service. The trash is collected. So by all means, it was a road.
By all outward appearances.
Yeah.
Right.
It just technically was, the city of LA said, no, it's out of service. So that was their excuse not to maintain it. So that law has been changed. And we got in the LA Times about that. And then within a year of that, the law was changed, which means,
Bravo.
yeah. So
one step in the right direction.
one step. And now residents of the city of Los Angeles have a legal recourse, an easier legal recourse to get their roads fixed.
As if anything with the bureaucracy is ever easy, but I see your point.
Yeah.
At least it's inching closer.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
There's a law in the books, and all those roads have been put back into service. So they are supposed to be maintained.
Now, I'm venturing to guess that when you bought your home on this road, you didn't know that.
Oh no, and it was above my home. It wasn't the road on
Okay.
the road that my home was on. Fine. Right?
Okay, but it was the one above you.
One above me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The things that you learn.
I know.
Now, now I'm anxious to go out in Orange County and see if there are any like canyon roads that
Yeah.
are,
Alligatored.
yeah, and not. Well, I know there are some that are still dirt, which is interesting.
Oh, that's interesting.
But we digress.
Yeah.
So, throughout all of this process of this litigation, what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned?
Yeah, well, one of the things with these lawsuits is that I really, and how I kind of percolated single A estates, is that there was really no one there. It just, these lawsuits just suck the life out of you, the life
Sure.
and the money out of you.
Sure.
And then there's really no one to offer like honest and authentic help, right?
To kind of quarterback you and
Yeah, yeah. And, people don't want to hear it.
Sure.
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 And after 7 years, people run.
oh my word. Yeah, I can't begin to imagine it. And how brave of you to say, no, I'm going to do this.
Well, it helped get me through it. It's like, I'm going to, every time you hit a roadblock, it's like, okay, I can address this in single lady estates. So what the 4, I was really thinking about this. So the four main takeaways that I got at kind of the 50,000 foot level was number one, as a single woman, you're going to be treated differently. No one's going to tell you that, but you will be treated differently as if you were part of a couple. And you're perceived as an easy mark.
It is really remarkable that is so very true.
Very true. And even, when I was talking to some of the guys about all this, I just go ask your wife.
Right.
Talk to your girlfriend.
And their minds are kind of blown when they do.
Yes, they are all blown because they had no idea, because that's not how they're treated.
Well, because we don't complain about it, because it just is what it is.
Exactly. You work around it.
Yeah, there's more of them than us.
The other thing that I really learned was, today, like buyer beware is a completely outdated term. And that it doesn't even begin to describe today's consumer experience, especially after the pandemic.
Right.
Not even talking about real estate. I mean, everyone has commented about just the lack of service, but in a real estate market where you are making probably your largest purchase of your life.
Certainly.
You sign a lot of documents. They all cover everyone else's behind. And yet you need those experts to help you make a decision.
Yes.
And so you don't have any baseline. Let me walk that back. You might have some baseline knowledge. So sometimes you have a gut of what they're telling you, but you don't have the knowledge. It's not your job.
It's almost impossible to know how to select a professional advisor in a field where you don't know much.
That's right.
Because you have no context.
That's right.
So then we're stuck relying on our friends, and sometimes those referrals are great and sometimes they're not.
Exactly. And which kind of leads to my third big point was that I've learned was really you have to ask questions until you're satisfied with the answer.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's the answer you want to hear.
Right.
But as long as you understand the answer that's being given to you and they're answering your question, which people don't listen a lot, so you have to usually have to repeat. That goes for me too, right?
Sure.
Sometimes,
that's we're human.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you just really have to understand what is being told to you, and be fierce and ask until you understand.
Absolutely.
And don't apologize. Yeah.
Especially specifically when we're talking about buying or selling real estate, too much is at stake to almost understand.
Right. Exactly. Right. To just say, oh, yeah, okay.
No, exactly. So something that I enjoy doing, probably was maddening to others, is, okay, explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Yes.
Because I don't
That's
understand.
Excellent.
Right? This is not my area. I'm not afraid. I'm not ashamed or afraid to say I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I want to know what you're talking about. So help me understand this.
And what I found is like true professionals will be able to do that. If they really know what they're talking about, they can really dummy it down and make it very simple and baseline. Those that can't, generally, I'm not, I would find someone else.
Absolutely. And that goes for every layer of this process.
Yeah.
And
everything.
Something I have found, and I bet you have as well throughout the course of your, evolving career and just life, is that I have had various vendors and professionals I've used for years, and I've gotten to a point where the service level isn't the same, and I have to go find others.
Yes.
People who are good aren't good forever necessarily.
Yeah. And sometimes that is, you needed their level of expertise, from A to B, and now you're going to C, and that's just not their wheelhouse.
Right.
It's not even a right or wrong thing.
Right. It's just not a fit.
Yeah, it's just not fit.
And what I find fascinating is that attorneys seem to have no issue about referring out to other attorneys when something is slightly outside their specialty. Yet in the real estate industry, you don't see that enough, I think.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I dealt with a lot of attorneys.
I bet you did.
And they're, good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you probably can't name any names, but
No.
yeah. Okay. Someday.
But they are, who the attorneys that ended up helping me were not my first attorneys. And they were extremely detail oriented and had a passion for my case, especially especially around the city of Los Angeles.
So let me understand this. So not only were they masterful at their trade, they paid attention to every dotted I and crossed T.
Yeah.
But also, equally importantly, they cared.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
And it was critical for me because I was just like out by myself in a rowboat in the middle of the sea.
Sure. Reliant upon them to tell you what's
Yeah.
real and what's not, and what may or may not happen.
Yeah. And so that was great.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so and just one quick aside, one of my current clients and my favorite clients, they're this lovely couple. They happen to be real estate attorneys, you know. So it's fun working with them because, to your point, they digest every single word of everything I write and everything I get, and but because we're all nerds in the same way, we love
Right.
it, you know. But that's what you need.
Yes.
So tell me about how your experience evolved into Single Lady Estates.
Sure. So throughout this process, right, our mission is really to serve and celebrate the women homeowners. And we do it by educating, advocating, advising, and just providing services. This will be in the future, and community. And it's really all to help women make fully formed decisions. And I'm not invested, and the company is not invested in what the decision is, as long as you have the information you need to make it.
I love you. I love that.
That's where we care.
Right. 'Cause just be well informed. So you're
Yeah.
making the best decision for you.
Exactly.
It's not for us to say.
That's right.
Right. It's not for us to say you should buy or you should sell.
Right.
I mean, these are the market conditions. If you feel like that aligns with your plan, great, let's go get it, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
I could not agree with that more. What a beautiful, beautiful mission. So what other sorts of specific trends does your entity, your mission support?
Well, there are, and you know this, right? As a real estate, you see it, right? So really now women are coming into their financial own. They are, we're going to college, which leads to better jobs and professions with more money. And what they're, well, even with college, right? So now women have surpassed men in getting degrees.
That.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I wrote it down. It's 37% of women will complete a 4-year degree compared to 33% of men.
Go girls.
Yeah, and that just happened. That just happened a few years ago.
Yeah.
That women just surpassed it. And you consider, like, in 1940, only 4% of women had 4-year college degrees.
It's mind-blowing. And we have to remember that in some countries, still today, women are allowed to.
That's right. They're not allowed to learn.
It's really, really shocking. So yay for the U.S.
Yay, yes. And then the other issue is divorce and inheritance.
Right.
And as you know, baby boomers have, well, according to McKinsey, you know, baby boomers have about 70% of the affluent wealth.
Right.
Right. So
It's really disproportionate.
it's very disproportionate. The traditionally men have passed earlier than women, so women will get that money,
Right.
and daughters will get that money as well as sons. But you know, daughters will get that money. So it's a huge generational shift, and it's shifting towards women because right now women really have about 1/3 of the assets, but that by 2030 they're really predicting a shift.
I myself am a widow, and the older I get, the more widows I meet. Excuse me. And I find it concerning that
Yes.
so many women who are in their 60s and older, who early in life were not taught about financial management, weren't even allowed to manage finances in many circumstances, to your points, are suddenly getting some degree of wealth. And are they getting good advice, and how do they know how to get it? And that's where you
Yeah.
come in your group so beautifully,
Yeah.
because there's very real need there.
And it's about asking the right questions. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Right? If we can help guide people just with the questions, and then again, right, if you're getting the answer that you need to make your decision, then our work is done.
And I know I'm spitballing here off the top
Yeah.
of your head. Can you think of any questions that perhaps people don't know to ask
I mean, they're all different.
True.
It just really depends.
upon one's circumstances?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on where you're living. It depends on with the financial, your financial advisor. You know, Mary Buffett did a podcast for us, and so she answered some of those questions.
We just have to listen to your podcast, and we're going to plug that and tell everybody where to listen.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Because I have a serious thirst to know everything that you've talked about ever. So I'm your biggest stalker.
But what is happening in all these, in all these financial changes is what really is helping it is this Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which no one really knows about, right? We're all recipients of it.
I had heard of it, but again, you made my head explode. Yeah. So share for the audience what this is and when and what happened.
So prior to 1974, women, if you were married, you could not get a credit card in your own name.
So in my lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah, my lifetime too. And so we have mothers that kind of told us behind closed doors, you have to go to college, you have to be able to support yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What women our age are telling their daughters are, not only are you going to go to college and support yourself, you're going to invest in yourself, and you're going to go, most younger women, millennial women, are getting homes before they're getting married.
Mm-hmm. And many of my clients are single women.
That's it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, about 20% of single women own homes. About 10%, 9-10% of men, single men, own homes. They just spend their money in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have fancier cars.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But I just, even when I was telling people, it's only been since 1974, people are just blown away. It's been less than 50 years.
It just kills me. I mean, I don't feel like I'm that old. Obviously, I am. But to know that something as fundamental as not being able to get a credit card was only made legal when I was in elementary school.
Yeah. And
Holy Mother of God.
My mother's credit card had my father's name on it, Mrs. Matthew Wasserman. And if you talk to your mothers and your grandmothers and your aunts and have them, I have a 94-year-old aunt. She, her thing was, she got married in 1947. She said, you went from your parents' house to your husband's house. There wasn't any discussion or thoughts of anything else.
That's just
what
how
you did.
It was. Oh.
Yeah.
Because he was basically her custodian.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what happened. And so now we've got this huge societal shift, right? We're educated. We're able to get credit in our own name, which allows us to buy homes in our own name. Mm-hmm. And, it's just this huge, it's a pivot. That didn't exist, prior to 1974.
It's a monumental pivot.
Yeah.
And I just want to take a second to say, everyone who's listening, if you are an unmarried woman and you own your own real estate, I freaking applaud you.
Yeah.
I don't care where you are. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're 99 years old and you just got it. Good on you, girl.
Yeah.
Wow.
And even, there was a story in the Orange County Register last year where, they had featured women that were getting homes in Orange County. They were getting outbid. It was during the frenzy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were determined. So some of them left the state.
Yeah.
And, that's what they had. But they were like, no, I want that home.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to do it in another state.
I've had to have that conversation with too many people. And in many cases, they didn't leave, just their money did. So they chose to make an investment in another geography where it would cash flow, because that again served their building wealth for their future. I did have to leave the state. I was very sad, but it's going to happen. But good, these statistics are encouraging, and a little unsettling at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, that we had so far to go.
Well, we still make about 80 cents, 82 cents on the dollar from that. But look at how we're investing in ourselves.
I'm wildly impressed, and I'm proud of us. And I'm loving the headlines that I'm seeing, like some of these very famous actresses. I guess they're all actors, but female actors are speaking out loudly about, I was a headliner on this film and I got paid less than the dude did.
Oh, yeah. Like The Crown, right? How apropos, right? That the Queen got paid less than the Prince.
It's a little mind-boggling. And feminism has many, many layers and many nuances. And the angry feminist, who's burning her bras and marching, I don't think necessarily needs to epitomize what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is own your stuff. Own your life. Own yourself. Own your education. Own, whatever information you have, you're only going to get because you seek it. So go seek it.
Yeah. And, even the angry feminists of the 60s where we see the marches and all that stuff, they had nothing. They couldn't even get credit cards. Yeah. So the anger and that pendulum swing just helps us stand on their shoulders.
Yes,
it does. And you don't need that anger anymore because we're so far ahead of...
But it was needed then. And that's a great example of how what we might need at one moment evolves to be a slightly different need.
Yeah.
And we've gotten to a point now where we have to be a little bit more respectful across the board. And I'm not going to say man to woman because gender is more highly nuanced than that.
Yes.
Person to person.
And it's really a societal thing. It's not, you can't point your finger, ooh, men or ooh, women. It's
Certainly.
how we're all socialized.
My goodness, yes. I had a conversation a few days ago because I have I have a ghostwriter writing a book with me, and it's not just about real estate, but anyway, it's a long story. And we were talking about a certain chapter, and I was speaking with some friends of mine. I was very excited, and I described something that had happened to me, something that was unpleasant, that was visited upon me. And one of the women said, "Well, what were you wearing?" And I was like, "Wow,
Yeah.
what a dude thing to say."
Yeah.
I don't care if I was running naked through the streets. That didn't justify what was done to me, and it's like, these are the conversations we need to have with each other. And to your point, not just with people we think are other. Sometimes
right.
we need to talk amongst ourselves and say, there are some stereotypes we need to get out of our own head.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can't beat yourself up too much about it. It's just the way, like everyone has the crazy uncle.
Right.
The older crazy uncle that says things that you're just like, oh dear God. Well, that they're socialized, and they're, and they are leaving us. Right. So it's just, it all evolves.
I didn't have kids, but when I see my friends' kids and how much more civilized they are, it gives me hope.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we are becoming a kinder, gentler nation. Thank heavens, because I'm that crazy aunt.
So am I.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Oh my goodness. All right. So let's go back to real estate more specifically.
Sure.
So when you talk to various people within the real estate industry, and it's quite the pantheon of services and things, is there anything that you're learning along the way that surprises you?
Yes. Yes. So, and it's been incredibly fascinating and enlightening. And it's kind of what we mentioned before. There's such this generation shift. I spoke to this woman. She's 32, an attorney in Canada. Her, she went and got a condo. Never, she was going to do it before she got married, which she did. She's married. Never planned to live in it with her husband. It was hers, and she manages it. She manages that.
I love that.
And they have their own home.
I love that.
And that's the 32-year-old, and her peers are doing that. And then I also don't have children, but my friends that do, they're telling their daughters, go buy something. And to what you were saying earlier, right? It doesn't matter if it's in California or outside of California, buy something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because, at one point, and, even Mary Buffett was saying, you're going to need that. You're going to need the money. You don't know what for, but you will.
Trust me, life happens to all of us.
That's right.
And you're not ever going to say, oh, I have too much money. That's never going to cross your lips. I promise.
But the really cool thing about these millennial women is that they don't tie their home ownership to family planning. Older generations, even Gen Xers, it's always like, oh, we have to get a house. We're going to have kids. They're like, nope, this is mine. And it can be whatever size, wherever it is, it's for them.
They're just more pragmatic about it.
Much more pragmatic. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And they're fierce.
I think maybe that's why my most prolific investors happen to be women.
Oh, interesting.
Or maybe it's just because I freak men out. That might be part of it.
Maybe a little bit both. Who knows? Well, the other thing that was really, again, really fascinating to me is that when I talked to women of different ethnicities and culture, what I found was, at first they said, well, our culture didn't talk about finances.
Interesting.
But when you dive deeper into that conversation, it wasn't a cultural thing or an ethnic thing. It was a daughter thing.
Ooh.
And where daughters and women throughout that family unit, their older fathers, oh, she's going to be taken care of. Even when I was going to graduate school, my father's like, well, you'll never use the degree. You're going to get married.
Isn't that sweet?
So I went and took my own money and went to grad school, right? But that's a generational thing.
It is. It is. And it's funny because you made me think about mine. And my mom said she's going to go to MIT, and my dad said she's going to be Miss America. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, there you go. So today's parents are like, great, you want to go to MIT? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
it's just, again, it's a generational shift. There's nothing to be angry about. It's just we're evolving.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. I mean, we absolutely need to evolve. All right, so I need to get a little bit more into the weeds with you, but first, let's just put a pin in this and take a quick moment to thank our sponsor.
Phew, you guys are going so fast here. We got to take a break here. So many things to consider.
Tell me you're not
here.
fascinated.
I am. I got a lot of questions.
I knew it. Okay.
But before we do, let's not question that you have a lot of people like this in your network. One of which is your sponsor today here, Ford and Diulio. Ford and Diulio is an Orange County-based boutique litigation firm with attorneys from the big law firms. The partners who founded the company did so in a simple concept: aligned interests, where they're rewarded for being efficient and effective, not for just dragging out the litigation and running up the bill, and where they engage in the relentless pursuit of their clients' goals, whether it's litigation, mediation, or even trial. If that's something you need in your life right now, there's a place to go find it right now. FordDiulio.com. FordDiulio. FordDiulio.com. I listen to this, and I am amazed.
Right?
Because in some ways, I assume, as the old Virginia Slims cigarette commercial used to say in the 60s, you've come a long way, baby. And yet, how far we still have to go. She was showing me before the show started a McKinsey report, which she alluded to in the discussion, that 1/3 of the homes are owned by women. But aren't women half the population?
Thank you for noticing.
Yes.
You mentioned, well, most of the realtors are women, but few of them are brokers like you are.
And of those that are licensed brokers, even fewer are broker owners.
So what happened? I thought we had this revolution and this fight, and everybody burned their bras or whatever. I thought we had this battle, and I thought we'd made progress. And I'm continually shocked. Women earn less, women own less, on and on and on. And everybody says it's coming. It's like, did something happen I missed? Was there a pushback? Was there something that kept it from going over the line? I'd be curious to hear why.
I'm going
to
give my 2 cents and then hand it over to Bobbie, who's the expert here.
Yeah.
I have noticed with women, societally, we still have a lot of brainwashing to undo. And the larger a vessel, the longer it takes to turn it.
Okay.
So we're already pretty well through this societal turn, but we still have to overcome women apologizing in conversation. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Bumping into someone. Oh, sorry. Men don't do that. We apologize for ourselves. We
Right.
feel inherently on a subconscious primal level less than. We don't ask for things. We don't demand things the way men do. We don't demand answers the way men do. All of this is getting in our own way, but we're improving. And conversations like we're having today is a vital step in that improvement.
So it's not just more barriers that need to be broken through. Maybe it's women need to change the narrative that they're
Yes.
telling themselves.
Yes.
Right.
People, humans need to change the narrative.
Right.
Yeah.
The
Which-
other thing too is
yeah.
that we're society. We are socialized from birth in these roles, and I think younger generations are really trying to crack that and to do other things.
Yes.
But that's all. It's so innate. You don't even realize you're doing it.
No, that's my point. It's
Yeah.
hard to change
Right.
something if you don't know you're doing it.
So these conversations, and you have to take like effective action. Like, okay, I'm not going to apologize, right? And you don't have to be rude about it or whatever. Just smile and move on.
Right.
But that's really what's taking place now.
So I'll mention 2 things, and I'll let you guys get on here. In my own life, my wife will be the first to tell you she ran a bank. She was a manager for a bank for many years. And yet, if she took the car down to get it fixed, they treated her like, where's your
Yes.
husband? We'll
Yes.
explain this to you.
Yes.
She was too dumb to know what an oil change was or what a spark plug was or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we've had several of these discussions. We had the woman from the National Republican Party here a number of years ago. And she was in town trying to recruit women to run for office. Actually, she was trying to figure out why Orange County has more Republican women candidates than most counties do, because that's not been the norm with the Republican Party's had a women problem, not getting enough women to run within the party. And there were a handful, 4 or 5 of them that were supervisors, mayors and stuff here in Orange County. And she said, we see the problem's this. She was very blunt. She said, if we go into a market and we say we're trying to recruit a good candidate, and I'm sure Democrats have the same problem, we look around at who are the big business owners, the community leaders, whatever factors they look for, and they walk up to somebody and they say, we think you should run for office. We'll stand behind you. Have you ever thought about running for office? And we try and encourage people to go. If we go to a man and we say, hey, we think you should run for office, 9 out of 10 times he goes, yeah, I think I should. That's a heck of an idea. If we go up to the equal CEO, equal business owner, equal whatever you want to say, and we say to a woman, she'll say, I don't know. I don't do this. I don't have this. And she's talking herself out of it. We do a show with a very successful attorney. She's the general counsel for Western Growers Association, big group. And she talks about all the time, if a woman sees a job, she'll find the one thing out of the 400 that she doesn't know how to do and say, I
don't meet all the requirements.
I don't meet all the requirements.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, well, I have 50% of these. I can do
that
this.
Has been
the rest
proven.
of it all fake. Yeah.
Remember when Dr. Regina Lark was on? Because she's got an advanced degree in women's studies. She's written many books on the topic that men are more inclined to seize things that they think they're entitled to because they nearly know it and they'll figure it out.
I can do it. I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Right. And women aren't wired that way. And it goes all the way down to early childhood. Women are taught to play nicely with each other, and men are taught to go kill him.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
You go kill him. Go get him, tiger.
So
right?
my last question is this, and we were talking about this before the show. One of the statistics I know has been a fact, I don't know if it's still a fact, that men die earlier than women do, generally. And so more women are going to inherit wealth and homes and whatnot, assuming their divorce rate, who knows if that still holds true. But
one would think.
I wonder if that's changed as women have made it into the C-suite, have become business owners, have become part of the rat race, if they're not suffering from the same rat diseases, stress, heart attacks, whatnot, if that's equaling out is there an unforeseen consequence of equality here?
That's a fine question.
I think there's been studies where women are closing the gap. I don't think the gap will ever be closed, but they are, in corporate life and professional life, they take on more of the stresses that men have traditionally had, that it is impacting their health.
Interesting. Something that I know personally, and we're going down a rabbit hole here, is that cardiovascular disease tends to claim far more women's lives than men, because women are accustomed to our bodies, especially when we're still fertile. Our bodies are always evolving monthly, day to day, week to week. We feel different. We don't have as much continuity as apparently men do. And so when something feels off, they're more likely to go to a doctor. And when they get to the doctor's more likely to take them seriously.
That's the other issue.
I had to fight for 7 years to get my cardiac condition properly diagnosed.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a lot of eye-rolling recommendations that I go to support groups for my mental problem. Yeah.
Wow.
Honey, you need to just,
take an aspirin,
pat me on the
honey.
head.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It turns out my heart wasn't beating. It would just stop.
Yikes.
Wow.
But yeah, there's so many layers to this onion, and thank goodness you're focusing on one part of it.
Yeah, just one part.
because it's important. And this is one step to making it really obvious that we need to level the playing field for all humans. And if we need to start with a gender specification, okay, great, so be it. But it's a great step, and it's a wonderful step. And I'm so pleased that you're forming this group, this community, and you haven't officially launched yet, have you?
No, we're in a soft launch. We officially launch at the end of October, on October 28th, which is the anniversary of the Fair Credit Opportunity Act.
How appropriate.
So we're going to be on Talk Shop Live,
nice.
And we're going to have a panel and a big discussion with women of all ages and ethnicities about their experiences and some fun, they're going to make it funny, but some situations, and it's informative and lighthearted, and that's going to launch.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're on the air early enough that all the listeners can mark their calendars.
Yeah. We've got some really inspiring women. So stay tuned.
I cannot wait. I personally absolutely cannot wait. Okay. So tell us, aside from listening there, how can people find you and connect with you?
Sure. Go to Single Lady Estates, it's plural, singleladyaestates.com, and you can sign in to become a member. There's no cost.
Great.
And we'll send you an invitation for the Talk Shop Live, and
Great.
It's virtual. So that's easy. And then people can even message me on LinkedIn. I used to wonder why people didn't give phone numbers, and now I know, because I don't get all my voicemails. I lose things, and there's a virtual paper trail with our contact form and with the membership form. And then on LinkedIn, if you just, Bobbie Wasserman.
And that's Bobbie.
Yeah.
Wasserman. Okay.
Yeah, on LinkedIn. And just send me a message.
Marvelous. Marvelous. I can't wait for the live launch and to have you back and to share war stories, because there's so many.
People don't know. Did you tell them that you also did our podcast?
I didn't.
No, she left that little detail out of it.
Yes, and so Wendy's part of our second season, and our second season launches at the beginning of October. And
it was so much fun.
Yeah, we had a good time. And
so we have one of Warren Buffett's, it sounds like his daughter or something.
Daughter-in-law.
Daughter-in-law, okay.
Yeah.
And right after that, Wendy Ross.
There you go.
I'm in auspicious company.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it when Kara said that she had arranged for you to interview me. I was so flattered. So,
And it was fun.
It was fun. We have to hang together. We have to support one another. Humans all have to support all the other humans. So I know we've only touched the tip of the iceberg that is Bobbie Wasserman. So I'm going to shamelessly stalk you and have you back again and again.
I would love that.
Yeah. There's just so much to cover here. But
we got to come up with another way of saying you're going to invite them back. Shamelessly stalking them is a...
Okay, fine.
That works.
I'm
Does
not,
that work? Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
not
it
kooky at Wendy. I say things that make you cringe. You just cringed, didn't you?
Ow.
Yeah, all right. I shouldn't say that. That's a bad connotation, but I will follow you vigorously. All right. So, single lady estates aside, let's focus on the human, the human that is Bobbie Wasserman. I want to ask you a few of my own sort of Vanity Fair Proust-esque questions.
Sure.
So, first of all, tell us about where you live and why you presumably love living there.
I now live in Thousand Oaks,
Okay.
which I love.
Thank goodness.
I was able to get out of my other house, which thank you to the low interest rates, which no longer exist. So I got out right in time.
Good for you.
And and now I live in a beautiful house right up against the hills, and I just love it. So it's my happy place.
Good for you. All the lessons learned paid off.
Yes.
I love that. If you have one, what is your most treasured possession?
My most treasured possession would be my dog.
Oh, I
So
agree.
I have couches full of bones, and I have lots of balls in the yard.
Yeah.
And I love it every second of it.
There are kids. My baby's here.
There you go. There are kids. Yeah.
They are our fur babies. Love them. Love them. Okay. And you are certainly, like all of us, a work in progress. You're not done yet. But so far, what do you consider your greatest achievement?
I think honestly, since it's been so recent, it's been 9 months,
Mm-hmm.
that I really, I'm going to say that it was really getting over the lawsuits and the humps, and I walked away with a lot of wisdom
Mm-hmm.
and a renewed passion, really, for helping women, and kind of a second act.
That's so wonderful. I am so sorry that you went through all the drama you had gone through.
Yeah.
And so grateful that there were lessons learned and you're smiling.
You have to learn lessons if you just, or else you fade away.
Right. Right. Yes. Okay. And okay, we already talked about how to get a hold of you. So yeah. So once again, October 28th, right?
Yes. Talk Shop Live. Go to singleladyastates.com and then go to our membership form. We just ask for an email and we'll send you an invitation.
Wonderful. I'm going to do that myself. I don't know why I haven't done that yet. I am remiss.
Because we're just starting to promote it.
Okay. Okay. We're getting there. Yeah. We're a village. It's
That's
happening.
right.
All right. Well, until I see you again, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for anybody who's listening, you can follow this podcast wherever you most love to listen to podcasts. Follow me on Instagram, The Real Wendy Ross, or, you can always call me. You've got my number. It's on the podcast.
Excellent. Thank you.